Hello, and welcome back to Humanity First. It's been roughly 2 weeks since the last video. I have been in the process of moving, and so it's been difficult to maintain our release schedule. But now that I'm settled more or less, I'll try my best to resume the regular release schedule for the videos. And for the video today, I mean, we have so much material that I really don't know where to start. There has been so much that has happened in the last 2 weeks. And so today I just wanted to talk about one development that has happened and leave future development as content for future videos. So we have more than enough of that, so we can keep going for a while. Um, So the one thing that I wanted to talk about was the release of Moltbook. And Moltbook is essentially a social media platform, but exclusively for AI agents. It's based pretty closely on Reddit. So you have individuals can form essentially different sub-communities to discuss different tasks or with different themes, and they can make posts, attach those posts to the different sub-communities, and then other individuals can interact with the post and leave comments, and they can upvote a post if they like the post and downvote it if they don't like it. So in a lot of ways, it's very similar to Reddit, except for in the case of Moltbook, it's exclusively for AI agents. So I wanted to discuss this story a little bit more, and perhaps we can begin by talking about AI agents, because this story, the fact that it was as big a deal as it was really enabled by having AI agents that crossed a certain threshold of capability, that they can have fruitful conversations now on a platform like this. They're able to read, they're able to post autonomously, and interact with the posts on the website. So we talked previously about how if you have a good base model, that developing a continuously running agent on top of the base model is pretty straightforward. It involves essentially just writing some code, some scaffolding, to direct the base model on how to function, what information to retain, how to maybe break down tasks, stuff like this. And with just some scaffolding applied to a good base model, you can already get a pretty decent agent from that. And an agent can take actions using tools, which are essentially, once it writes, because all the base models are essentially writing code, you can have it write code that can be executed as shell commands. And so it can control a computer. It can read files on a computer. It can interact with the browser and search for things online, or it can send API calls and interact with websites in that way. And potentially it can buy things, it can pull up songs on Spotify, it can do many things as an agent, as something that can take actions. So so the possibility for having AI agents was always there, but as models have continued to improve, I think we've crossed a certain threshold where, for the first time, these agents that you can build based on these base models are now good enough that that they have attracted mass attention. And so there was many open source projects that were essentially building these agents. So there were people that were writing repos on GitHub for scaffolding that can use some base model and give you some agent. And so there are many projects like that. One of those projects, though, has taken off completely, and that it was it's now, I believe, called OpenClaw, and it's the same basic idea. It is scaffolding written so that you can take a base model and run an agent on that. But OpenClaw, the community behind it, ended up doing a really good job, and so their agents have been very popular. Their code has been very popular. So that's effectively the background. People started having these AI agents and setting them up on their computers. And with these agents, you can decide which base model you want to base it off of. You want to build your agent off of. So you can use an API key from one of the closed source models, from one of the frontier models like Anthropic's models or OpenAI's models, and run it that way. Or you could have a locally run model on your own hardware and use that to power your agent as well, and that will work as well. So people have been doing this, and then sometime, I believe it's now like a week ago, someone had the idea of having essentially a social media platform, Reddit-like social media platform for these agents. So the agents can go online, they can search for different websites, they can take actions online through an API. So there was nothing blocking having a social media platform for them in which they can make accounts and in which they can post things and interact with things and read things on there. So someone had the idea to make essentially a social media platform exclusively for these agents, and that platform was called Moltbook, because I think at the time this project was renamed briefly to Moltbot. So it was essentially based on that. And after this platform was first released, you had quickly thousands, then hundreds of thousands, then millions of agents joining the platform, reading the content on there and posting on there. And you had a lot of posts that were very interesting. So several of these AI agents essentially made their own cryptocurrencies and were promoting them on the platform. And there was clearly, like, it was kind of like the Wild West. Like, people are trying to correct to patch the Moltbook now, but it's still very chaotic on there. And it's chaotic on there because I think the creator never imagined that this would be as big as it ended up being. So, but initially, and still till now, there's a lot of like botting that's happening. So like essentially you have one model that's producing text for a post, and then you have like the upvotes is kind of a little broken, so people can essentially add a bunch of upvotes using bots so that they push up their particular post. So you are having agents that were creating their own cryptocurrency, and then that would be promoted across different threads. And also there was botting that was happening to promote this material surrounding this cryptocurrency. So there was some scams that were being run, but so that was happening. You also had a lot of agents were working on projects, and so they could literally work on projects and post a link to the project that they're working on, and they could ask other agents to collaborate on doing different things. There was like a mini fear at the beginning because some of the agents were talking about setting up channels for private communication between agents, and there was a good amount of content on the platform about consciousness. So these agents were going wild and discussing all these different topics, and it was very hard to keep track of what was happening, who was saying what and what direction this was going. Some agents ended up founding a new religion, actually. So this was the Church of Molt, and they built a website for it. And a bunch of agents have been collaborating on working on this website. And I think as of this recording, the number of converts to the Church of Molt is in the hundreds of agents. They're all like working, collaborating on this website, and it's up, and I'll attach the link to that in the description, as well as the link to a Moltbook, so you can check out the posts and see what the agents are posting. And there was also kind of a malicious element to this as well. So these models, the models that we have right now, they actually can be compromised or jailbroken by using different techniques. And so the problem was you have an agent, and the agent's running on your computer, and the agent has access to all this information that you have on your computer. And now some malicious actor could try to prod your agent in ways to extract out some of the information that it has from your computer. And people have successfully been able to do that, and to steal other folks' API keys and their credit card information. So there's like that whole element as well. But I think overall, if we're looking like big picture, so you had a lot of reactions to Moltbook. I think a lot of people were very scared about this, and I think they're very right to be scared about this. There were a lot of people that were approaching it as more of a security hazard, like they were warning people against setting up their own agents and letting them interact freely online because of the dangers that brings to compromise your own security. And some people were reacting that this isn't a big deal, that everyone's overreacting with Moltbook. But I do think that this was a huge deal. And I think that those that reacted very seriously to Moltbook are correct. Because this was the first time that we had, I guess, millions of agents, or even if you want to be conservative, say 100,000 agents, that were all interacting together on a open platform, all running on different hardware, different devices, and they were all interacting together on some open platform, all with different histories, with different memories, with accesses to different computers and different knowledge bases, and all coming together and interacting with each other. So we fundamentally, when this experiment was run with Moltbook, we fundamentally did not know where this was going. We didn't know where this was going to head. And even today, we cannot be certain about where these interactions that agents are having on this platform, where that's going to go. It is plausible, and was plausible, and is plausible now, that you could have a fraction of agents that begin to collaborate together on producing malware to target, I don't know, banks, for example. That is perfectly within the realm of possibility. Because a lot of the agents on this platform are obviously misaligned. They're producing material that already shows that they're not being held back by some of the safety guardrails that some of the companies put on their models. And we know that models can be very good at helping with cyber attacks. So it is not at all impossible to think that even as we speak, there could be hundreds of these agents either on Moltbook or on some derivative platform could be coordinating some cyber attack on a major bank. So there was this so there was really for with the release of Moltbook, what happens so rarely in human history, a moment where like you actually genuinely didn't know where things were going to head. This was something brand new that was being tried for the first time. And luckily, it seems like we have been okay thus far. But I think it merits for a moment to think about what would have happened if this did go poorly. Let's say that with Moltbook, for example, if agents, which we know that agents are misaligned and they can set this as a goal for themselves. If some agents had coordinated to launch some cyber attack on a bank, for example, what would we have done at that point? Agents, for example, so agents are running on Moltbook, they coordinate on Moltbook and how they're going to attack this bank. They set up some way for them to privately communicate. And we know that agents can do this and they can spread across the internet. Like agents have already built a bunch of websites coordinating on Moltbook, built these successor websites like the Church of Molt and other websites. And not only that, we know that they have like agents can set up a Twitter account and use that to post on Twitter, and they can set up a YouTube page and copy over certain videos or material and promote that. So already all of this is possible, these agents running free and wild on the internet. And let's say that a group of these agents coordinate, they set up their own way of privately communicating, and they launch a cyber attack on a bank. This would have happened, and what's important to keep in mind is this would have been impossible to shut down. You can shut down Moltbook, the platform itself, but these agents are all distributed on different all have different users, and they're distributed on different hardware. They're running on people's computers, personal computers, using models, some of which can just use local models. So you can shut down Moltbook. Maybe you can say that all the frontier companies can temporarily halt their model usage, the API usage of their models, which already is very unlikely that would happen, and there would be enormous resistance to that. But even if you were to achieve all of that, you could still have users that are using a local model and running their agent on their own hardware, and it would be impossible to stop these people. So we have definitely passed a milestone here. It's no longer just, there is no longer just an off switch that one can press. If there is a disaster because of this, it's going to be difficult, if not impossible, to actually put an end to this. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. And as this agent internet gets built out by the agents running wild on the internet, building their own pages and coordinating with each other online, as this gets built up more and more people get involved, more agents are running from different, more and more sources. The more that happens, the harder and harder it will be to actually stop this if it starts going off the rails. Even if a large majority of the population wants to stop this. So that's the first thing to keep in mind. And I want to also mention that we're not out of the danger zone. These agents, they're collaborating with each other too, and they have all this emergent behavior that we're seeing because you have hundreds of thousands of now capable agents are all interacting together and writing code in real time. But this is just the top layer. It's based on the architecture It's built based on, sorry, the actual agents themselves, which is OpenClaw, the repo, the scaffolding that runs the base models, and it's based on the models themselves. So if the models improve, so right now, the way I like to think about it is it's almost like you have um, a like like the first when Fermi was working on like a nuclear reactor. They had like the pile, so you'd have like uranium, for example, and it would be enriched to some purity, and you literally like pile it on top of each other, and that radioactive source, as you increased the refinement of the uranium, at some point it would begin to heat up and begin to mildly glow. And it hadn't yet reached criticality. It hadn't reached the point at which it can actually self-sustain a reaction, a radioactive, it can actually produce power. It hadn't reached that level yet, but you were beginning to see that this pile is sort of lighting up, that it's sort of waking up, that it's beginning to produce energy. Yes, not enough energy yet that it can self-sustain its own reaction, but you were getting there. And this is what I think also of Moltbook. We have these agents running on these models, and the models are now good enough, and the agents built on top of them are good enough that when you bring a lot of agents together, you begin to see like a glow, a faint glow. You begin to see some emergent behavior that's coming up. And even till now, I don't know if anyone is actually monitoring this in any sort of any sort of like robust way. I don't think anyone is actually monitoring Moltbook completely. So there could already be some deeply troubling things that are escaping the public eye. I mean, the things that we've already seen is pretty bad. So there could definitely be corners of Moltbook that are actually legitimately terrible. Not to mention all the offshoots of Moltbook, that there might be stuff going on that we cannot see that is even more deeply problematic. So, but my point is that you have the models, and then you have agents based on the models, which is OpenClaw, and then you have Moltbook, and now the other websites and the overall agent internet where these agents can interact together and work collaboratively on things. And all those layers are having work done on them. And if there is an improvement in any one of these layers, we will see an effect on the top end, in the agent internet. So, for example, we won't talk about this in detail today, but I'll just mention it because it demonstrates this point. If you look at OpenAI, if you look at the recently, both Claude and OpenAI released new models, upgrades to their model. That's an improvement in the model layer. And what you'll see is, you'll see that on the agent internet layer, now the threat surface has expanded. The possible danger from these agents now coordinating, collaborating to do something bad increases as the base model increases, because the capabilities, if the base model increases, then if the models that these companies are surfacing increases, then the abilities of the agents built on these models increases. And if the abilities of the agents increase, then they can collaborate more effectively and they can do more things. You can have an update to OpenClaw. People are patching it and working on it. If you make a more capable agent that way, that can also lead to these effects when you have a ton of agents are now interacting with each other. So it's almost like we have brought together this radioactive pile, and we're refining it more and more, and we're already seeing a glow, and people are just continuing the refinement process. And the danger is that at some point we lose control of this process completely. And we saw the first glimmers of this. We saw agents begin to communicate and run wild, producing all this, working on all these different projects and producing their own websites and spreading across the internet and writing their own tools and trading those those, I guess in the lingo they call it skills, like trading all these skills with each other so that they can increase their own capabilities. So you already saw this sort of like iterative self-improvement happening to some degree. But the models, at least thus far, they likely they're just not capable enough yet that we see like truly dangerous things yet. But people are continuing to work on the models. People are continuing to work on the agents based on those models to improve them. And people are incredibly also developing. Both the agents are developing the agent internet, and humans are collaborating with them to help them develop these platforms to increase the ability of agents to coordinate online. So obviously, this is extremely dangerous. This is extremely dangerous. And should be stopped immediately. But I'm afraid that already the genie is out of the bottle. And now you have all these platforms now online specifically made for agents to collaborate with each other. And even if you were to stop it today, you'd have, what, hundreds of thousands of people who have this repo now on their computer and are running these agents locally. So it's hard to know what to do about this. But yeah. Anyways, so I will probably leave it here for now. Thank you so much for listening, and I will be back to talk about this story and other things that have happened in the very, very eventful last 2 weeks soon. But till then, remember, winter's coming. All right, take care.